Meanwhile, back at the dome fortress in the desert, Hakoto is sat in the president's chair, looking at the hollow screen on the desk and controlling a computer mouse, whilst talking to a man dressed in a suit opposite him. Suddenly, a beeping noise can be heard and a small red light is flashing on the table next to the hollow screen. Hakoto presses the button and the light turns green, and Hakoto speaks while still looking at the screen. Hakoto here, speak. A voice can be heard coming from a small speaker on the desk next to the green light. Sir, we have established contact with our troops in the city. Hakoto stops controlling the mouse, then looks away from the hollow screen and looks at his colleague and faces the light and speaks again. Did you pass on my orders? The voice replies, Yes, sir. They have now entered deep within the city and are searching each body and building as we speak. Hakoto says, Good. Well, keep me informed. The voice from the speaker replies, Will do, sir. Hakoto presses the button again, and the communication light turns red, then turns off. Hakoto then leans on the desk and holds his hands together at the fingertips, looking at the man opposite him and says, So where were we, Mr. Vice President? Hakoto grins as the man replies, Well, Mr. President, grins the man as he continues to speak. The satellite, sir. Hakoto looks to his left at a crystal ball sat on a small stand, then picks it up and sits back in his chair looking at it, then says, Ah yes, Project Washaway. He holds the crystal ball balanced on his left-hand fingertips and looks through the light shining through it. He then continues to speak. So if we melt the ice caps at rate 6, the water will rise more violently, you say? The Vice President replies, Yes, sir. We would see shorelines significantly change, wiping out or displacing many survivors who may still be living in coastal areas. Hakoto then lowers the crystal ball and puts it back on its stand, leans back in his chair and holds it on his fingertips again, then asks another question. Good. That pleases me. How far do you think those wretched land hollower worms have got that we engineered? Vice President replies, I couldn't say, sir. We know some of them returned to this area and some of them are massive now. They have grown larger than our predictions, but pose no threat to us. Hakoto speaks with a frown. Well, I hope they goddamn drown in the floodwaters. I don't want those beasts in my new world. The Vice President says, I expect some will drown, sir, but the terraforming phase of the project will deal with many of them. Any surviving ones may retreat to here. Hakoto questions the Vice President again, but the sonar mines will take care of them, won't they? The Vice President leans back in his chair and reassures Hakoto, Oh yes, sir, and if not, we have protocols set to exterminate them effectively anyway. It's not a problem. They will be dealt with. Hakoto then gets up and walks over to the glass wall of windows to the right and stares out across the desert with his arms folded, still facing the window. He then speaks. Think, in as little as 200 years, this view could be changed so drastically. Grass, trees, plants could blossom on this planet as the way they used to when our primitive brothers roamed the earth before they were wiped out. Once we rid the planet of its scum indefinitely, we could reseed the earth the way it should be. The Vice President keenly says, No could about it, sir. We can if we push on with Project Washaway immediately. Hakoto leans his forehead on the window in his right hand as he looks down at the domed glass canopy, then whispers to himself, if only. The Vice President, not hearing what Hakoto said to himself clearly, then says, Sorry, what was that, sir? I didn't quite hear you. Hakoto snaps out of his gaze and says, Nothing. So tell me, how is Project Washaway going? Update me. The Vice President smiles and keenly replies, Well, the satellite is ready as ever and is currently over Antarctica. Thrusters and all systems are working optimally, so it can reposition as and when needed. The software program has been optimized so it can melt various remaining glaciers and ice caps in the most efficient way. We have calculated that if we start this procedure, say, next week, then in 20 months most of the Earth's ice will be melted significantly, raising sea levels, and then we can use the satellite to start manipulating the weather and cleanse the planet further. We can create years of rain over this very desert, and with the progress the land burrowers have made, the waters will sink deep into the desert surface. We may not see it in this incarnation, but we can start reseeding the planet with suitable life again, starting with here. It's a long-scope project, but one we are ready to start. Hakoto turns around and approaches his desk and sits back down. You've done your homework. He picks up the crystal ball once more and holds it up and looks into it as he continues to speak. A new planet, under our pure rule. The only apes living on it will be the ones remaining in trees or the ones on our dinner tables. The two men laugh. Ha 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 ha. Hakoto then places the crystal ball back down, then crosses his legs and sits in his chair and asks, So tell me, how is the new lab for the alien coming along? The Vice President replies, Well, sir, with the present one being destroyed, I have put more men onto the job. It's just as well we started building it months ago under your secret request, with what happened to the old lab. I must say it's a peculiar arrangement, but we should be able to transfer the Soltarian from the medical lab to the new interrogation lab in a day or two. Hakoto smiles and says, "Excellent, and I appreciate your discretion whilst working on the new lab initially. How about the power cell? It's not been able to help you locate the ship?" Vice President replies, "No, unfortunately not." Vice President pauses, then continues to speak. "Look, sir, excuse me for saying this, but don't you think we should kill that alien?" Hakoto leans forward and places his hands on the desk and says in a stern voice, "Look, I detest that Sultai scum more than you can imagine. It angers me greatly to know that their blood is spilt on this earth, and that their spirits have joined the energies of this planet that so rightly belong to our primitive brothers." Hakoto stands up and walks to the glass wall of windows again, holding his hands behind his back, and continues to speak. "I know they don't belong here, and can't wait for the day they no longer are." The Vice President replies, "Yes, sir, I totally agree. The Sultai had or have no place on this planet. That is why we should kill that alien Hoto." Hakoto turns to face the Vice President, still holding his hands behind his back, and speaks. "Look, I know he killed the President, but Hoto is a vital specimen. He has knowledge of technologies deep in his mind, technologies that could make our job a lot easier." The Vice President then says, "Sir, we already possess the best of the Sultai technology, and we have used it to enhance our lives and agenda the best we can." Hakoto walks back to his desk and sits down in his chair and says, "I am not talking about Sultai tech, I am talking about our ancient people's tech." Hakoto presses a button and shutters come down covering the windows. The room goes dark and then a large hollow screen appears near the shutters on the windows. The screen flickers and inside of a huge pentagonal room can be seen. There seems to be pentagonal shaped metal tiles on the floor. There is a gigantic screen at the end of this room with metallic terminals in front of it. To the left and the right of this screen, from the outer edges of the walls, going all the way to the back of the room, it seems the tiles have raised as individual columns. The ones nearest the walls are high up, and ones below them lower down, and ones below them lower down still, creating a kind of amphitheatre. There are strange symbols everywhere. The room seems very high-tech, with other large screens all over the surrounding walls, and metal stairs and platforms above the amphitheatre. Hakoto speaks to the Vice President, as the Vice President looks on in awe at the screen. This is believed to be inside of a giant Quachar ship, hid here on Earth. The screen then changes to show a larger area of the ship, with smaller ships inside it positioned in groups of 3. It appears to be some kind of docking bay, or aircraft hangar. Hakoto speaks again. "I know we have to progress with Project Washaway, but if we didn't, we could search further for this ship." The Vice President turns away from the screen to look at Hakoto, who is staring intensely at the large hollow screen and the images of the Quachar ship. Hakoto speaks again. "And Hoto will lead me there. With this ship we wouldn't have to sit on this planet and hope that our people would come to us. We'd go back to them, back to Quachar."